Tom, thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Hugo. Looking forward to it.
Amazing. Well, look, I always like to start these off with a quick introduction into yourself.
I'm Tom. I have been a lawyer for 23 years now. I started way back in 2003 at another international law firm, Herbert Smith, as it was in the day. And I was with Herbert Smith for about 11 years. And in that time, I spent a lot of time in London in their M&A practice. And then I moved with them to Singapore. And after that, I moved firms. And here I am today. I've lived in Singapore for about 11 years or so. And I spend a lot of my time now in London as well. So I spend time between both Singapore and London. But London is predominantly my home these days. But I also am the head of the M&A practice for the firm in Asia. So I look after sort of what we do as a firm in the sort of M&A markets.
Nice. Well, I know you mentioned HSFK as it is.
So they are now, indeed.
Now.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was life like as a trainee there?
It was great. And actually, we had a fantastic intake. So the September 2023, the September 2003 intake, I think I always like to think with some of my sort of colleagues that it was the intake of the century. And we had a really great intake of about 60 odd trainees from all walks of life, obviously. And it was one of the first years where we had to do the BPP City LPC course. So there are a few firms that put all the trainees, potential future trainees, into a particular course, which is held at BPP. So we had already sort of met each other previously.
Yeah.
And no, we had a great intake. And we are still very good friends. We have a WhatsApp group. I went to the darts with three of the partners, very senior partners now at Herbert Smith, just in earlier January for the World Darts Championship. We're good mates and worked hard. We played quite hard, but it was long hours. And it was in those days when mobile phones were about, but we were very excited to get Blackberries when they first came out.
Yeah.
It was slightly different from how we work these days, but what we were doing was very similar.
Yeah. How was the darts? Is that Littler? Is it?
Did he win
this time again?
He did. Yeah, he won the whole thing. But we went to the semi-final, and we went to see two matches. So I've never been before. Actually, it's quite an experience.
Yeah.
We went, and so lawyers can have fun, is all I say. We went as 5 different characters from Star Wars. So we looked pretty good and had quite a lot of people coming up to us to have tape photos with us, but we all went as different characters. So as I say, lawyers can have fun, however senior they may be.
Yeah.
Their names will remain anonymous, save that I can assure you that I was there in some form.
Dare I ask what the characters were or who the characters
were? You
can.
We had one who was a stormtrooper.
Nice.
We had one who was Darth Maul, who was always very funny because, of course, you can take off the H of Darth Maul and make him Dart something or other.
Yeah.
I was Boba Fett, so bounty hunter. We had 2 Obi-Wan Kenobis and a Princess Leia. So it was a pretty good turnout.
Yeah.
Quite glad we didn't have an R2-D2, but
yeah. I think that was my first. I went to the Blackpool Winter Gardens. For darts a while ago now, and I remember that was, that was a bit of an experience.
Yeah. So I've not been before. I'm not sure I'd go again, but it was good fun. It was good fun. Yeah.
So good days then in your training time. Great cohort. When you're starting out, I mean, did you already have an idea about practice area? What
That's
you
a good question.
To do, or was it very much do the 4 seats, see what happens?
It's funny because I have this conversation regularly with trainees at the firm now and trainees who I look after when I'm sort of supervising them. And also I was speaking to potential VAC schemers yesterday and the like. So I do quite a lot of that sort of stuff too. And just historically, I've been quite involved in it. What do you think?
Well, from the people I speak with,
that's what I want.
I think people underestimate the power of not liking a practice area.
Yeah.
So if you love a practice area or you hate a practice area, that's great because you can either rule it out or you can stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this for life. I'm happy. But the people who struggle are the ones who do 4 seats and look back on their experience and think, right,
which now?
Yeah,
where
am I going to
to
do now?
There's always. I had somebody in yesterday who is looking to get a vacation placement, having just got a first at university in law, and it's struggling because it's tough to get a training contract. It's
Yeah.
tough to get onto a vacation placement. Lots of firms give open days, but actually to then progress that onto sort of vacation placement is quite hard.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have to go through the hoops, and different firms have different things and whatever, and you play the game. But it's all about playing the game, right? And you always talk about it, and you say, what seat do you want to be in your third seat? Because that third seat is probably your most important seat. Not necessarily, but often it is, because it's where you've had at least a year's worth of experience. And it's also the one which is just before you qualify. So, you've got the best opportunity. And yeah, I mean, it's tough. I think I had 2 seats that I really enjoyed, one of which was in Paris. And I'm never going to wasn't going to go and work in Paris, but that was good fun doing energy and projects in Paris.
Nice.
I was terrified of the idea of going into the corporate practice because I'd heard all these rumors from my predecessor and I'd seen emails on the sort of WhatsApp, on the email chains about how frightening it was working with a particular supervisor. I'd come in immediately into litigation, and Herbert Smith is and has always been a very, very strong litigation firm.
Yeah.
And I was a bit nervous. I'd come from traveling around the world. So I had sun in my hair and didn't look appropriate, I'm sure. But it was a very different experience. I thought litigation would be what I wanted to do. I really enjoyed it. But the reality was I wasn't as frightened when I actually got into the corporate seat, and I actually really enjoyed it. So I didn't think corporate was going to be what I was going to do. But it became very clear after 6 weeks of doing the M&A seat in that team that that's what I wanted to do. I had lots of friends who wanted to do the same thing.
Yeah. And
it does make a difference, having that sort of camaraderie. And we were lucky. We are really good friends still with a good number of them. So of that 60, we're all in touch with each other in some form. But there are sort of groups, little cliques maybe, of people who are really quite close.
Yeah. I think people have an impression that you can't change practice area. And I know that maybe it's not an ideal situation, but it definitely is possible.
Absolutely.
I've seen people that change practice areas quite drastically. Maybe you take a knock in 1 year's seniority or whatever the deal may be, but there are options there.
Sadly, you've got to realize that in anything you do, you've probably got 40, 45 years worth of your career, right? And whatever you do. So 1 year out isn't going to make too much difference. Of course, there's always some prejudices around it, and people could think, oh, well, that person was once a whatever, litigator, IP specialist. Why can't they do that? But, my honest answer is don't try to specialize too soon. So as I said, yesterday, somebody came to me, and this VAC scheme hopeful came to me and said, I really want to do IP. That's what I want to do. And we've got a great IP practice at Stevenson Harwood. Absolutely fantastic, first class. But I said, well, don't cut off everything else yet. You've got so many opportunities to go and see things. If you just tell your to the firms that you're going to that you just want to do IP, it's limiting, right?
Yeah, I actually mentor a group of law students now.
Yeah.
And the number one thing that comes up is, why do you want to do this?
Yeah.
I love international work. I love corporate work.
Yeah.
And from people I speak to, I don't know what the recruiting partner, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
They just see straight through it.
Yeah.
It's not credible.
Yeah.
And also, if you say you're obsessed with IP or something similar, again, I think overselling an interest is equally as damaging as
I
not having one.
I couldn't agree more with you. I think the most important thing is just to be yourself. And when you come to an interview, just show interest in the law as a whole. I'm speaking from my perspective. Other people may have completely different views. But if someone came to me and said, as a junior, right, brand new, I really just want to do corporate law, I think it's quite limiting. I really would. And go out, understand what you're doing. And one of the other conversations we had yesterday was, I said, I didn't do law at university. Now, I'm not saying that that's the way to go. I mean, the reality is law wasn't my sort of priority career my path, and it became it. But that's why I did French. I did history at university as well. And I had the opportunity to do the conversion course. But there are so many options for you to take. So I wouldn't put yourself into a particular sort of basket early on. Keep your horizons open. You never know. You might become the best patent lawyer in the world. You might become the best European competition lawyer in Brussels. Whatever it might be, you don't know where your career is going to go. I had no idea in 2003 that I was going to spend 14 years of my career in Singapore.
Yeah.
And as it's turned out, it's been a fantastic opportunity. I didn't think I'd only be at 2 firms. I thought I'd only be at 1 firm. May have been at 5 firms. Who knew? But that you never know where your life is going to take you, your career is going to take you. So try not to box yourself in too early.
Yeah.
There will be time when you have to do that.
Yeah.
But early on, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Again, that something came up with someone who qualified in 1984. Like his piece of advice was don't specialize too early.
Yeah.
Do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So back to HSFK.
Yes.
10 years there.
Yeah, you bet that. Yep.
Nearly 10 years, just over, just under.
Yeah.
What was the driver behind moving on from them?
That's a good question. I hadn't really ever thought about moving. I had a great time with them. I still, as I say, still have many, many good friends. Opportunities arose at another firm. It was at the time of the merger with the big merger with Freehills. I was in Singapore. It became quite obvious it was going to be quite difficult to make partnership, although at that time it hadn't been sort of on the radar, but for various sort of reasons, it was going to be more tricky on the basis that they were, a whole new raft of partners coming into the firm that do the same sort of thing as me. And so I kind of just opened the book a bit and saw what was going on. And I realized that there are other alternatives out there who do similar things. And, everybody goes through these processes, some people more than others. And it was a really difficult pull. I wasn't keen initially to go, but it was a great opportunity. And frankly, I've never looked back. And I love the firm that I work for. Yes, it has its foibles, but generally speaking, every firm does. Some more than others, but I think we're a pretty good shop.
Yeah. So were you already in Singapore at the end of your time at HSF?
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah. So I'd had 3 years. I'd actually gone. This is the classic secondment story. I'd gone. They'd said you go for 12 months. I said, well, that's crazy. I must go for 18 at least. But by 18 months, I'm now thinking it's suddenly working really well. You get a great opportunity there in a different market. You're starting to bring in business because you're getting more senior. 18 months becomes 3 years, change firm, it becomes 14 years. And so, so life just takes over. And so now I'm known as the sort of Singapore, Southeast Asian person. Yeah. But I've always maintained the fact that I'm an English lawyer from an English firm or an international firm, let's say, because it doesn't really matter, it's an international firm. But my roots are in the UK. I'm an English lawyer practicing in Singapore. I have people in my team very clearly have to sort of delineate between Singapore law, English law, but that we can do everything. But I'm quite cross-border. So Singapore for me is really just a place. And actually the work we do is with my team, which is quite a big team now, sort of all over Asia, into Europe, from the US and into South America and Australia. So it's really is quite cross-border.
Yeah. So it's because in my, again, this could very easily be wrong, but in my mind, Singapore has similar rules to like DIFC maybe, where it's an English law international enclave, or is it very much?
It has its own legal system, very sophisticated legal system, and it's really the hub headquarters for most sort of M&A activity and arbitration dispute resolution in the region. So the SIAC, which is the Singapore Arbitration Centre, is phenomenal. Has lawyers from the UK, from Malaysia, from India coming in practicing there. But the Singapore law is based on British law. So there are lots of similarities, but they are different. So as an English lawyer, and I have to be very careful, to what I say, but as an English lawyer, a lot of the concepts in Singapore law are very, very similar. But I can't give that opinion, let's say. So we have people within our team, because we have the regulatory license to do it, who can provide that Singapore sign-off and work on things. There are different ways of skinning a cat in terms of the regulatory position. We have what's called an FLA in Singapore. So we have there are two firms, the Stevenson Harwood and another firm called Virtus Law. And we effectively like a sort of a foreign law alliance. Yeah. But I can't give Singapore law advice, albeit it's actually very similar because we have so many similar concepts.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think similar to, I think Turkey has partnerships that is really niche, but I think
there you go.
I think Turkey has like a magic circle partnered with a Turkish name.
Okay, well, that's interesting because my daughters say that I need to go to Turkey quite a lot at the moment. So maybe I'll do that when I get my hair sorted out.
Trust me, I will be there very soon as well.
I was hoping you'd say no, but that's okay. Yeah.
No, I'm saying more for myself. I will be there. Your hair is fine.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah. So we also missed out. So it's not just Singapore. We also missed out the Myanmar chapter as well. Was that the secondment? Or?
No. So Myanmar was. We opened an office there. I was in charge of opening an office there, and we talked about this before actually. I think Myanmar is a wonderful, wonderful country. Back in the day, in the 60s, it was the fourth largest economy in Asia, and 100 million people, huge landmass, right in the center of Southeast Asia, close to India. Huge trading lines with India and the UK and the likes. It is a fantastic country. Obviously, it's had its political upheavals. It's been very, very difficult. But in 2012, the then president, who was a military general, decided that the best thing to do was to actually try to reopen the sort of commercial and corporate and the Myanmar, Burma to sort of foreign investment. So there was a new foreign investment law that came into force in 2012. And suddenly the world starts to see what's going on. And it suddenly becomes the hottest territory for people to be looking at in terms of inbound foreign investment, so FDI, into that part of the world. And everybody was looking. It was a wonderful place and we had great opportunities. And at that time I was with Herbert Smith, and there were very few firms that were doing sort of substantial, serious work there. I happened to work on 3 very large inbound investments for 2 of the big oil companies, one British, one Australian, and for one of the big cigarette companies. And who sounds terrible, doesn't it? The sort of vices, and we were doing that. And so there weren't that many people who had all that level of experience. So it was really good. I was then able to create for myself effectively a niche in a practice. And again, this is something I think we talked about before, something that we really recommend lawyers not so early to say they want to be an IP lawyer at 0 qualification or whatever it is, but as they progress their career to find something which distinguishes themselves from others because the competition is there. So for me, by hook or by crook, by chance, Myanmar seemed to be something that I had done more than most people. And in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And I was able to, do a lot of work, and people recognized me for doing that out of Singapore. So when I moved with to Stevenson Harwood, we had at the time, one of the reasons was that there was a tie-up with a Myanmar law firm. We had a consultant who was a very good friend, dear friend of mine still, who had put together a relationship with a local Myanmar firm. And we were able to take, great opportunities there. Doing some really big ticket deals for major sovereign wealth, Singaporean sovereign wealth, for Abu Dhabi sovereign wealth, for the big corporates, some of the large private equity businesses, the likes of TPG, Blackstone, GIC, they were all in there. And frankly, there aren't that many people who've got the level of perhaps international experience to be able to provide that support that perhaps a local domestic practice wasn't able to provide. So we, along with some of our sort of major competitors, the Herbert Smith, Stallanovis, Linklaters, etc., we were one of a small group of very prolific international law firms. So we eventually set up our own office there, and I was sort of responsible for that. And for 4 years, we had a very small but very good office where we had a sort of senior associate who was managing it. I was flying in, flying out. And I've probably been to Myanmar, to Yangon or Naypyidaw, which is the capital, probably 150, 200 times. And dealing with the regulators, dealing with drafting of new law, the Insolvency Act, being very heavily involved in the New Companies Act that came into force. Really exciting stuff, and doing good work. And one of the other things that's come from that is that I was able to establish a really sort of decent reputation as being able to do good quality work in hard jurisdictions. If you can do it there, why couldn't you do it in Cambodia or Sierra Leone? So that's how it sort of went from there. And then, of course, February the 1st, 2021 happened. So just post-COVID, when things had slowed down anyway. And February the 1st was when the tanks rolled in whilst that lady was doing, I don't know if you remember, it was the first day of the coup. No one knew what was going to come. There was political tension, but suddenly, February the 1st, the country just locked down completely, and the military took over again. I mean, this is a very potted history of a very long and difficult story in the history of Myanmar, and it's interesting. So yeah, before I finish, so you should watch, if you get a minute. There's the video of the lady who's not the lady is Aung San Suu Kyi. That's what she's called. The lady is film with her. It's excellent. I've met her many times.
Really?
Dorsu, many times. Yeah, you do get quite good opportunities to catch. Yeah. But there's a video of a girl doing aerobics or some sort of gym stuff in the middle of the highway in Naypyidaw. And as she's doing it, suddenly the tanks start to roll down behind. If you look at it on YouTube, and that's the first minute of the coup.
Yeah.
And and of course then sanctions came, so political sanctions from the US, EU, Singapore, all around the world, Canada, and it just becomes too difficult. And it was always difficult. It was always difficult because there was always OFAC sanctions and sort of this specially designated nationals list, but this basically shut down the whole thing. So it became really tricky. So there remain some firms that work there and work there, I think, pretty well, mainly regional firms out of Southeast Asia. But the big international firms had to quite quickly take a view that it was going to be very difficult to continue to work because for all sorts of reasons. But it was a brilliant piece. So I didn't live there, but I knew lots of people. I sat on the board of the British Chamber of Commerce. I have lots of friends there still. And it's sad that we aren't able to do that anymore. It's a wonderful country, wonderful country.
So you didn't permanently live there? No. So family were in Singapore, were they?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but then I would fly up there maybe 3 times a month for a few days here, a few days there. And of course, because you can't then when you're in Southeast Asia, you get the opportunity to use Singapore as your hub where you live, obviously. But because it's so close to KL, this 40-minute flight to Jakarta, it's 2 hours. You tend, as you're establishing a practice, to be going to each of these different places. Now, these days, I spend much more time in Europe, Australia, maybe Japan, and then the States, because a lot of the work is more American. But so the bigger work comes through there. But, maintaining those relationships with clients in each of those different countries is very important. And also with law firms, if you don't have your own presences, and many don't, for example, in KL or in Manila. So there's a lot of that local flying, but it is a fantastic area to work jurisdictionally and also just out of interest. Regulatory is complicated because each different jurisdiction has different rules you've got to think about each time you do anything. Yeah.
So emerging market, cut your teeth in a pretty challenging jurisdiction.
Yeah.
What was... Did the family love the relocation to Singapore? I mean, how is it moving family across the world? Young kids or no kids?
I had a 2-year-old and one on the way. And it was challenging. I mean, because you suddenly go from, I think we left in February, so it was probably snow on the ground or pretty cold, to 33 degrees, between 33 and 36 degrees of humidity every day.
Sounds tough.
Well, yeah, it does, I know. But it is very humid there and it rains an awful lot, but it's a wonderful place. But it's a very good place for bringing up young children.
Yeah.
It's very, very clean. There's tons of stuff to do. It's never been my home.
Yeah.
It was never our home, but London has always been the UK and London has always been my home, but it's a very, very close second. And I was with a client last week in Singapore. I said I was there 3 or 4 weeks previously, and I go back and forth. But and they said, "Oh, where's your home?" And I said, "Well, as you know, London has always been." But I very much sort of marketed myself as being an English lawyer in Singapore, and and doing what I do, but making sure that my connections with the UK were still strong.
Yeah.
And it was a deliberate ploy, and it seems so far to have worked. But yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool. So in terms of business culture then, I mean, I can imagine working in Myanmar, emerging economy, maybe not very mature in terms of the corporate environment there. I mean, how has the environment changed from the West to APAC and then Myanmar specifically.
Gosh,
well.
okay. Well, I didn't realize it'd be so much about Myanmar, but yeah, I mean,
Look, at the end of the day, not many lawyers have worked in
no,
Myanmar.
but I'm absolutely delighted to speak about it because it's rare that I do, but I just have so many fond, great memories of the team that we had, just the setting up of the business. I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
Having to write a business plan for the firm and people in London saying, what the hell are you doing in Myanmar? Where's that? Burma. Oh, okay. Isn't that where Nellie the elephant came from? From Mandalay or something. And, but they sort of understood. And of course you have people within the firm, understandably, who have concerns about it. The New Companies Act came into force in 2012. And what tends to happen in these jurisdictions, not just Myanmar, is that the legislation might come out, but then there's nothing to implement it. There's no enforcing regulation. It happens there's been loads in Vietnam. The Competition Act comes out, and then suddenly everyone says, "Oh, there's a new competition regulator," but that person hasn't, or that team or group hasn't been established. No one knows how to implement any of the laws. Yeah. So it then comes to really you doing it as basing it on previous examples of what might have happened in the country previously, what's happened in other jurisdictions, what you know from what you've done in the UK or US or wherever it might be, and just trying to box and cox until you get to a solution. But of course, you're always having to realize that you ultimately are a visitor in the country. Yes. And you are, trying to help the domestic lawyers to understand their own law. So you've got to be very careful. There's a big cultural thing to understand, and it's wonderful, but you have to get it right, and you have to work on that sort of thing. You have to do it everywhere you go. Yeah.
And I think, and again, you definitely know better than I do, but the impression I get from conversation with juniors is that being a lawyer is very black letter.
Yeah.
So this is what the rule book says.
Yeah.
So we have to do it. And then you speak to in-house lawyers, and the rule book kind of half goes out the window, and it's more to do with risk management and what's actually going to happen in practice.
Well, from a GC's perspective or in-house counsel's perspective, what are they trying to do? Is they're trying to keep their stakeholder happy, and their stakeholder is the board or the CEO or the management team, and that's their client. So for our perspective, we're trying to keep them happy, that they're able to demonstrate to their chief executive that everything's being done properly. But if you get somebody who is simply just regurgitating black letter law, Companies Act section, whatever it might be, and not actually putting it into action and actually explaining what it means in practice, it's limiting. And that can be the case. So the sort of traditional reading of Halsbury's laws and just doing all that sort of stuff. I remember the first training thing we had to do was do some research on the Dangerous Dogs Act. When have I ever done that before? Again, never. The reality is, in the law that I do, we have regulations that we're looking at constantly. We look at takeover code. We're looking at the Companies Act, but we don't have an awful lot of sort of case law. There is, when you're talking about directors' duties or whatever it may be, but it's corporate law is based on other things, not just the sort of litigation area. I've got to be very careful because people can tell me that I'm not really a lawyer if you say that. But it is true. We're much more business orientated, business facilitators for transactional.
And look, I think from what you've said as well, that part of the world, an emerging economy or developing economy, you have to be super on the business side, and maybe the black letter, the law is less. You can be a bit more brinkmanship in terms of what
for sure. For sure, you have to be able to work out the best way of getting things done without giving brown paper bags and all that sort of stuff. Because that is another issue you have to be very careful about. Sort of bribery, corruption, and all those sorts of issues in those parts of the world. But no, I mean it's good fun. It's really good fun, and certainly I would recommend it to people to go and take some time out. I didn't think I was going to be there for as long as I was, but I've sort of got myself into a situation where I'm able to do things around the world in different types of jurisdictions. So I've been fortunate to do that, but it's been quite deliberately plotted in my career. As I say, I'm grey-haired enough now to know how to deal with that sort of stuff. But as a junior, don't look gift horses down in the mouth and stuff. Do take opportunities, but make sure you get the fundamentals right first. So you do spend time doing these sorts of things. Get yourself, well trained and get some good fundamentals, and then look at what you're doing. People want to come to Singapore, frankly, because they want as a 6-month part of their seat. We do, we send people to Singapore. I think we have 4 or 5 every year, every 6 months, sorry. and they want to come because they quite fancy the idea of going to Bali for the weekend or flying up to KL for a bit or going to wherever it might be. And frankly, why not? Because when you're 23, 24, 25, whatever it might be, it's great fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
But get the fundamentals right and then see how it goes from there.
Yeah, I feel like that baseline of just, I know you mentioned the dangerous dogs out there. Obviously, that's an extreme side of things, but be a very good lawyer as a baseline, understand your area. But I feel like people get disillusioned at maybe 4 or 5 PQE because you are doing a lot of the same thing over and over again.
Possibly.
But you have to put in those hard yards to become a good lawyer.
Yeah.
But hearing, when did you move? 6, 7 PQE to Singapore?
About that, yeah.
Something like that.
About 7, I think, yeah. And
then
but I'd spent, but prior to that, I'd spent every night, 3 nights a week coming home in an Addison Lee at 3 o'clock in the morning. Missing my daughter's first birthday to much upset, which was disappointing, should we say. But, those sorts of things you have to put up with. And that's not actually, to be honest with you, these days, it's much less than it was in my day, right? Oh God, what do I sound like now? Clearly people work very, very hard, but there is so much more emphasis on work life, on other things, not just being related to just being stuck at your desk the whole time. Clearly the chargeable hour is very important, and how many chargeable hours you do is very important, but it's the sort of feeling of having to make sure you're there just to be seen to be there, I think is much less strong than it was 20 odd years ago. So there is a slightly different dynamic. Yes, everybody's looking at the bottom line, making sure that we're profitable lawyers, and certainly our firm is just the same as most firms, as every firm that's sort of a significant. But I think there is a general dynamic towards being more inclusive and perhaps a little bit less difficult as perhaps it was back in the day. But then that's because I can look back with rose-tinted spectacles and not be so boring and old, right?
Culturally, there's, again, better than I do, but culturally there's definitely been a shift towards prioritizing mental health.
Yeah, for sure.
At the end of the day, it's a competitive industry. You still have to work hard. There's no avoiding it, really.
Well, you have to learn. It's just like any job. And frankly, being a lawyer is just like being an accountant, being an architect. You have to learn. And, when you come out of university, having got your first degree or 2-1 or whatever it might be, having had a good time at university, actually turning that into how you're going to make money and actually having a career is a difficult thing to do. And, as we said earlier, actually making those applications work is a tough thing to do.
Yeah. They say repetition, keep doing it over and over again, learn by your mistakes.
Absolutely.
If you do enough work, eventually something will happen.
Yep. Have a goal.
Yeah.
Don't just pebble dash. Yeah. I was having this conversation yesterday. So yeah, absolutely. Make sure you target what you want, know why you want it, have good answers for why you want it, and then just be open, actually, is reality.
So the advice that I've given law students is, you realistically, you can get into, within reason, you can get into any law firm you want to. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take. I've seen stories of people who've applied to the same law firm for 6, 7.
Gosh, right. Yeah, okay. And they haven't seen you coming. You just change your name, put a different
6, 7 years in a row, and eventually they, eventually get in. But
maybe if I went in my Boba Fett costume, they'd have understood it as well. Go as a Star Wars character, you never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we've spoken a lot about Stevenson Harwood.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone who doesn't know, who are Stevenson Harwood?
So we're an international law firm practicing, all the sorts of law that you can imagine. I'm in the M&A practice. We have a good private equity practice, but we do everything from competition, foreign direct investment, to employment, to big ticket dispute resolution. We have very large clients. We are sort of on a par with the sort of silver circle, so Ashurst, Norton Rose type firms. Historically, we've had a long history of working in those, and we also have a large international practice. And so offices in Dubai. We just opened 2 offices in Saudi Arabia, which is the hot market. Yesterday,
Madrid.
Yes, good knowledge.
Yeah,
yes.
Research.
Yes, that's what you say. Bit of legal knowledge, bit of legal research. Yesterday, my very good friend, who I was literally with 10 minutes before I came here, has been involved in announcing the opening of an office in Madrid, going back to Madrid, having been there previously.
Nice.
We also have a very large footprint in Asia, but we have 100 odd people in Dubai. and you never know where else we'll be opening in due course. But our Asia footprint has been particularly strong. We were the first law firm to witness, or the law firm to witness the signing of the HSBC Charter in God knows when it was. We're 150 years old as a firm. We are independent from the US, so we do a lot of work for the US and US clients, a huge amount of work, but we are not in the US, and that's very much part of our sort of plans and strategy to have an alternative to the transatlantic firm, which obviously we're seeing lots of with the A&O Sherman, Taylor Wessing, Winston Strawn, Ashurst, Perkins, Coie, etc. So we are very much different from that, but we do the same thing, and it's all practice across the world.
So no offices in the US,
No.
but you do a lot of US work.
Huge amount. I'd say personally, I'd say 60 to 70% of my work comes from the US. So I spend a lot of time in the US acting for financial institutions, private equity, corporates going into the region, wherever it may be, but also for law firms who themselves don't have practices outside the US, because US law firms like to be US specific. Obviously, there are some, a number, who have London offices. They have some in Asia as well. But progressively, you're seeing retrenchment back from US law firms back to the States, where really the big ticket revenues and profitability sits. So we get the benefit of that. Quite often, it's a very big part of our strategy that we are able to help other large US law firms who have more of a domestic practice to be able to help them. So corporates, financial institutions, as I said, private equity businesses who are looking at investing into or working in or have disputes with Africa, wherever it may be, Asia, we can do that work. But we also have this great platform to be able to offer US law firms the ability to be able to do their work. And they effectively have a one-stop shop of working with a Tom or a Duncan or a Paul or whoever it may be, who can then sort of quarterback all of this stuff that's outside the US, because US lawyers like to be US only, tends to be. It also means that we can get the benefit of working, if you look at the AmLaw 50, let's say, which is the top 50 by revenue of firms, probably 25 of those firms don't, possibly even more actually, don't have a presence outside the US. They'll have 30 different offices from Reno to Long Island, wherever it might be, Orange County, but they don't have anything outside that. And lots do have in the US, but again, as I say, progressively it's that they are retrenching. So it just says to them, you have an option to work with a firm where there won't be a potential conflict. You're not giving your work to a competitor, and we can do all of that work for you wherever it may be. So we have a big network of our own offices. If we don't have that, we then have very good, strong relationships and networks of law firms that we're very good friends with across the world. And that's how we do it. And what we call it sort of quarterbacking. So we quarterback deals.
And is there,
or advice?
Yeah. Any future ambitions? What's the long-term goal of the firm? Where are you hoping to go in the future?
I think, we have to make sure that we are continuing to extract as much as we can by revenue, but particularly by profitable revenue. How we do that, it could be through various different ways, but the firm is very dynamic. We have a leadership which is extremely dynamic and looking at opportunities as and when they come up, and there are opportunities that come up regularly. We're not shy of being in the news. I think historically maybe we were a little bit shy, but in the last sort of 20 years or so, but certainly we are progressive and there's lots of opportunities. So let's see where it gets to. But we have to make sure, of course, we're able to keep up with our competitors as well. And that's just a big part of making sure that you're not sort of left out there alone because others are growing at the same time. Because just as much as we grow, other firms do as well, because we're all looking at the £1 billion or $1 billion firm and how do we get there? What does one do? But you'll see. We'll see.
Watch this space.
Who knows?
So Singapore's probably changed quite a lot since you moved out there.
Yeah.
I know we spoke earlier about 6-7 PQE, open an office, it's quite entrepreneurial. Now you're working across the global clients. Does it still feel entrepreneurial? Is it a bit more well established and a bit more predictable?
Yeah, of course. As you get more experienced and you get more comfortable in your shoes or your suit or your tie or whatever one wears, you do, of course, become a lot more comfortable with where your work is going to come from, who your regular clients are. You never quite know where the next thing's going to come from. What we always have this whole debate that at the end of our financial year, you're right at the pinnacle, hopefully, of the revenue for the year. It's beaten you last year by 10%, 15%, whatever it might be. And then the next day you go all the way back to the beginning again, and you have to start all over again. So where that work's going to come from, hopefully you have a good cadre of, regular repeat clients. And that's the key, right? For any lateral hiring and for juniors and mid-levels, trying to make it to partnership is just being able to understand that where is this work going to come from? How am I going to get repeat business? But you never know where the next thing's going to come from. And so, yes, just being open to opportunities. Definitely the firm as a whole, I feel certainly, and I think most people do, it's an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
We are, unless it's stupid or contrary to strategy that's made from on high, there aren't many things that people will say you can't do unless it's legally you can't, or conflicts or whatever it might be. But opportunity is there for you. And certainly that's something that I've really benefited from. And I've loved about being at the firm is that you do actually have the opportunity to take things on as you go. And that's also pushed down to the associates and to an extent the trainees as well. Like we want particularly in my team, I suppose, but I think it's the same throughout, is that we want our associates to have the opportunity to do their own business development, to grow their own practice and their own sort of book of business, because we recognize that we want people to make partnership if they're at that level. And if they don't, or it's not going to happen, that they can go to somewhere else, whether that be in-house or to another firm. And we've given them everything that they can possibly give them in their toolbox to be able to make it to wherever they need to get to. So it's a big bit of our sort of ethos, certainly mine, and I think it's shared by most in the firm, that we want to be entrepreneurial. We want to be able to do things where, and to be able to sort of go about our way and do things our way within reason, within the wider strategy, being teammates and players together. But definitely it's an entrepreneurial spirit. And I really enjoy the job because of that, the ability to be able to go and, the thrill of the chase, of getting that deal and getting that engagement letter signed when you didn't think you were going to get it, or, just sort of seeing your news story of the deal that you've done there's still something really good when you read it. Oh yeah, that's great. Last night we signed a large deal, and it hasn't yet announced it'll have to because of the stock exchange. But I know when that comes out, I'll be looking at all the stories and just reading. Oh yeah, we did that. We did that. We did that. We did it. It was our team. It was good.
Because there are. I feel like this is probably
maybe that makes me really geeky though.
No, not at all. I mean, if you don't enjoy your job, what's the point in doing it?
Good answer.
It feels like I spoke to. I feel like this is less the case, but junior partner, maybe a year, 2 years in, was very much telling the story of, as an associate, you do loads of work. You're kind of the engine house of the team. Partners give you a load of work, you do it, take on a load of stress, and then you're given, or you move into a partnership role, and it's very much right. Here's all this other stuff you have to manage. What's the kind of philosophy around training? I guess BD training for associates. I mean, you mentioned it there. I mean, is that something you're involved with? Or?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, I suppose because I do quite a lot of it myself, I'm always trying to get people involved in it. So last week in all of my associates have an opportunity, if they want to be involved directly or indirectly through writing papers and know-how, but directly in sort of active BD participation. So one of my star associates last week, who hadn't done anything for a while, sort of moderated a session on the VC markets and startups and liquidity events across Southeast Asia, and why there's been a funding winter in Singapore and all this sort of stuff. And she did a brilliant job. Actually, she'd planned it. She was nervous as heck, but she did a brilliant job. Yeah. And at the end of it, she came out absolutely buzzing because she'd moderated 5 people, including me, and done it brilliantly. And so we really do like that, because it gives people the opportunity to demonstrate that they can do it, and also just to learn, right? You learn so much just by doing it. Just in anything you do as a lawyer, you learn by doing it. So the first time you look at an SPA, share purchase agreement, and you have no idea what's going on, the more you do of it, the more experience you get, the more you know where the issues are going to be. So to an extent now, me, obviously, but our senior associates will know just by flicking through over half an hour, let's say, a draft document that comes in from the other side, where the issues are going to be. Yeah. And I can sort of say, okay, we know that's going to be a problem. Okay, yes, there'll be other stuff that maybe missed around the edges, but we'll come through a much more in-depth review. But we know where you get to. So just the experience of doing it and getting into it. So educating yourself throughout your career is always important. And we're really good at making sure that people do as much as possible and just trying to just keep up with what's going on in the legal world and legal affairs.
I feel it is good to gently push people into that kind of thing. So I think it's very much outside of most people's comfort zones.
Absolutely.
But the more she was buzzing when she came out, so
yeah, she absolutely loved it. Well, I'm saying that, and I hope she is, but yeah, but she did, and she did a great job. And there's been others who've done the same thing as well. And maybe I'll have a little practice with them beforehand and maybe talk about that or whatever it might be. And not everyone does that, but actually, and maybe my strategy for that isn't right for everybody, or it's not right for anybody. But actually, I think people do quite enjoy it, and then they feel like they own something, they own a project. They own a deal. And so, as you say, you're right. At any one time, I might have 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 deals going on at the same time. It just is the way it can be. I can't be on top of every single thing.
Yeah.
But I'm on top of the big points. But I have trust because I know that I've worked with my teammates before. I have trust that they'll be looking out for the right things. And when I look at the document as it's ready to go out and they've done a lot of work, we'll have a conversation for 2 hours. We'll go through it. I'll look at it, mark it up bits myself. And I know that they'll have done a really good first cut on it. So it's rare that you'd have that. But you grow that trust because you see your teammates doing it. And they are my teammates. They may be more junior, but they are teammates and we work together. And that's what it's all about, really. So it is just like being in a football team, frankly.
Yeah.
But just without football and lots of money.
Yeah.
Well, some money, but, Yeah.
Again, repetition to get there. I feel like.
But I don't think there's anything different in law than from doing accounting or from doing something completely different. You gain the experience as you get older, and then as you get older and more senior in the position, you then tend to do much more sort of management work as well, which that's the hard bit actually.
So you mentioned Singapore funding winter. I mean, what's going on in the region? Are there certain countries doing well?
Well, I'm going to post on LinkedIn tomorrow, which is one of my things, all about the fact that the private credit and private capital is coming back to Singapore and is very busy. And the reality is, on the big ticket deals, there's lots going on, but there has been in this. We tend not to get too involved in VC work, but we do. And again, one of the things I've done actually with the team is set up a little project and where we can provide sort of VC style work. So that has been good. But generally speaking, the equity markets have been pretty flat and debt has been difficult to get hold of in Southeast Asia. But I think the capital markets have been very, very quiet. But actually now in Asia as a whole, the capital markets are going great guns. So Hong Kong particularly, and India, we're seeing a lot of opportunities in India from the capital markets there. We don't have an office there, but we do a lot of work with India and with Indian clients.
Indian capital or foreign capital in
Both.
India?
Both, yeah. Both.
What do they, telecoms? I mean, what do they invest in? What? Offshore,
oil and gas, telecoms, data centers. Everyone's looking at data centers, subsea cables, telecoms infrastructure, toll roads, big projects, power. Everything really, frankly.
So is that within the region? Is there one thing like infrastructure, energy?
It goes through stages actually. So healthcare is always a big area. Education has been a big area. Obviously renewables and oil and gas. Well, to completely contradict myself, but oil and gas historically, but now renewables is quite a big opportunity for folk. So we're seeing solar, wind, hydro, biomass. M&A type things.
Because I always associated renewables with very advanced countries that usually have natural resources already.
Yep.
But what countries are investing heavily into renewables?
Most of them. Thailand, Vietnam, particularly Japan, Taiwan, China, very much so, and Korea. Offshore wind in Korea is huge. So it depends, but Indonesia perhaps less so, but actually, you do see quite a lot of big solar projects down there. Philippines, there's a lot of renewables. So it depends on where, but across Asia, generally speaking, of course, in Australia, there's a lot of that, but there's also a lot of heavy industry, mining, oil and gas, whatever as well. But yeah.
So do Do you do a lot of work with China? I know that.
Well, we have 3 offices in China and 170 people in Hong Kong.
So
Obviously,
yes.
slightly different. So we do a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And a big sort of outbound M&A practice from Shanghai.
Yes.
And capital markets team in Hong Kong and Shanghai as well. And we practiced through, again, very similar to what we have with Virtus Law that I mentioned in Singapore. We have the same sort of thing in China, so we can provide Chinese law advice as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, China is a big area for us, and continued growth in that area will definitely be continued. Well, we've sort of doubled down where lots of the US firms have pulled out of China for various reasons, mainly geopolitical. We've doubled down and have continued to expand our China presence, and seems to be working. Yeah.
You mentioned you provide playbook style services for VC clients.
Yeah, no, we've set up this thing called the STEP program, which is the startup. We made it up, right? It's called the Startup Technologies Emerging Companies Program, STEP.
Yeah.
And with that, we have the ability to do lower value work at lower cost.
So that's quite a nice segue into legal tech.
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your personal experience with AI?
So we have an innovation team at the firm, and they have been a big part of sort of developing our AI platforms. We have our own in-house.
Building.
Yeah. So we have our own in-house AI platform, and it is pretty good. So a lot of the sort of due diligence that we do will go through first case, what we call Sharper, which is a SH Sharper, our own platform to do first cuts of diligence reports and all that sort of stuff. It's been a long process for the firm, and it's good we've committed to it and continue to do so. We see Harvey, we've used all the other sort of opportunities there are, and we still do, but we have our own thing too. But it comes up time and again.
Yeah, I think there is a bit of a conversation now around build or buy.
Right. Yeah.
So and again, had a conversation with someone that qualified in 1984.
Yeah.
And this cycled around when I'm going to say internet era.
Yeah.
Engineering was developing.
.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said there was a massive question around, do we build or do we buy?
Yeah.
And loads of law firms became quasi software houses, building their own software.
Yeah.
Some of them did really well.
But you're seeing that actually in smaller firms. I know one particular small firm in Indonesia that has developed an incredible AI platform, and they're using that to really extract good money out of clients actually, and it's working well. There are always risks with it.
It's at early stage.
It is early stage, but every time you get a stage, you've already moved on to the next one. So the latest piece of AI information you've got or technology you've got is already been outdated now. It's an amazing thing. We had the GC at one of our events recently for Meta in Asia Pacific at one of our events recently, and was saying exactly that. She's amazed. I mean, she is a technology lawyer by trade, having been at Madden Skadden or Sidley or something like that. And, she is always constantly amazed by how progress everything is. Everything you do now will be updated within days. We've embraced it and continue to do so, some more than others, but the juniors use it all the time. And it's quite interesting because I overheard someone saying today about a piece of work that had been done by an associate, which clearly had been put through AI and was very good.
Yeah.
And I think the groundwork had been done by themselves first, but had been put through, was very good. I have a client actually who we've done a lot of work for in prop tech, so property technology, and we did a number of acquisitions for them around Thailand, Chile, South America. They're very active, and they're looking at a big exit now for one of the sort of the larger European private equity houses. But he is not a legal, he's a business guy, and he hasn't really got a legal mind. And he knew there was an issue that he wanted to ask a question about, but he didn't really want to spend too much time and effort and money, fees, talking about it without knowing exactly what he was asking.
Yeah.
So what he did was he wrote into his ChatGPT or whatever it was, what the issues were, and it came out with basically the questions that he should ask. So he sent me and my associate an email saying, I've put this all through. If this is the wrong question, okay, but it's a good start. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Because it did actually give us an agenda for what we were talking about, where he would have taken quite a significantly longer time without being rude, but he just doesn't, he doesn't know the concepts as well about how he can clean up his cap table and do a share reduction, whatever it might be. And he had ideas about what we were talking about, which he wouldn't have done had he not had that input. So it is quite cool, actually. Yeah. Same guy also did a review of the shareholders agreement that we put in place for him 2 years ago. And it's done in the style of a you and me conversation where two people are talking about the terms of the shareholders agreement. Yeah. So they'll be saying, oh, well, and I've listened to it. It's amazing. It's a half-hour basically description of the shareholders agreement where the guy will say, well, they've got really great indemnification protections on this or whatever it might be, reserved rights here, but they've got very limited restrictions on transfer there. So perhaps that was a playoff in the negotiation. You're thinking, oh my God. Yeah. Thankfully, we didn't get too many negatives. It was mainly, and it came out, oh, this is pretty much positive to our side. So we did all right. But it is an amazing technology and everything is changing constantly. So you can't not be embracing it in some form.
Lawyers that read first, use AI, read after, versus the lawyers that just chuck it into AI and see what happens.
Exactly.
I think free market economics will probably rule them out pretty quick.
Yeah. Although interestingly, I was with a Singapore law firm the other day, small one, who's cutting his staff back because he's basically bunging everything into AI. But he does it right.
Yeah. And there's a very high level, a US firm that's tiny in the UK that does very high level work. Spoke to a partner there recently, and he's been semi-resistant to AI, and one day said, right, I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
Did research himself, chucked research through AI, and it was pretty close.
Yeah.
And from then on, he said, I now use it.
And you have so many. Yesterday, I had an AI guy in who used to be a partner at Freshfields in Dubai, and he's got this amazing project platform name, which is it's a transaction management platform through AI. It's very, very clever. And he's a mate of mine, and he came in to come have a chat about what he can do, what we can do. And I said, well, just come and have give us a demonstration to my team in Singapore or my team in London, but particularly Singapore, because I know that we do it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And he's very clever. And then of course, they all have great stories about how this is going to change the world. They've all got friends and family funding into it, and it's doing brilliantly. But the proof of the pudding will come when it comes. But it looks pretty good from what you can say.
So tomorrow morning, we're waking up bright and early.
Yes, you are, aren't you?
A walk around the city. I believe you've got your hat here.
I have, Here we go.
Somewhere. So tell me a little bit about this.
This is version 5.0 of these hats. And what I've been doing, Hugo, I'm actually very proud of, is that over the last 3 years, I've been raising money for dementia care. It was dementia in Singapore, firstly. Yeah. And now it's sort of grown to be in other different parts of the world. And I've done it by walking every morning before work. So from about 6:30 in the morning. Tomorrow's a lie-in. In 5 different countries around the world, I have people who lead it around the world, and it's just developed.
London, Singapore.
So we do 12.1 kilometers every day. So it started in Singapore in the jungles of McRitchie Reservoir, and now it's grown. I mean, it's grown very organically. Nothing was planned. It's all grown. I could talk about this forever. We could have done the whole thing talking about McRitchie because I've done so much about it, and I just absolutely love it. But we've managed to raise about $500,000 now, and I've taken 2,103 people, 107 people from 58 different countries on a walk with me. The largest group I took was 72 last week. I took 35. Tomorrow, I think we're going out as a group of 10.
Yep.
And it's all new people as well. So it's been a brilliant opportunity to connect, all about mental health, walking, talking. So it's called walktotalk.com.
Yeah.
So look it up, all of you, walktotalk.com. Drop me a line on my email and come and join us, because it's been lots of people. So tomorrow there'll be 6 new people, I think, or 5 new people and 5 people who have done it before. But there's also one of my partners not legal partners, but one of my partners in Walk to Talk, because this is really taking up so much of my life now. It's been amazing. Who will be doing it with, called Natalie, and she's been helping me to grow this platform quite significantly. So we now are an affiliated partner of Dementia Australia. Yeah. And we are having conversations with a number of other big dementia platforms. But about $500,000 we've raised so far. We're a charity in Singapore, in the UK, and we have operations or walks in 6 different jurisdictions. So Singapore, London, where we have one in Richmond Park, and also the City Loop, where you'll take in tomorrow 25 different sites of London.
Make sure I'm not going to Richmond tomorrow morning.
You're not going to Richmond, so we're going to meet at Ropemaker Street, and we do the Capital Loop, and we do 25 sites of London. So lots of people fly in not to do this, but when they come in, they have the opportunity to see all of bits of London they want to see before work with a chat. We do it in Melbourne, and we have 3 walks in Melbourne, in New York, Paris, and Dubai. And then other bits and bobs every now and again. But it's just transformed me in terms of my outlook on life and meeting people and all that sort of stuff. It's been really, really great.
The one question I realised is why did this all come about? How did you get into
the long and the short of it was basically 2022 was quite a difficult year for me. I broke my shoulder. I was back and forth to the UK quite a lot. I broke my shoulder skateboarding, which you don't do as a 43-year-old partner at a law firm. But
have you said that you're the second partner I've spoken to that's skateboarding?
Okay.
Very recent.
Well, when you say skateboarding, that sounds like it's a present occupation activity. It isn't. It was a one-off. And,
right.
I used to do it as a kid, and now I realise why I didn't do it, because I broke my shoulder. It's horrible. You realise. So it was a pretty crappy year in 22, and when we've got a couple of cases of dementia in our family, in our extended family, and I was quite shocked by what I saw. I came back to Singapore for one of my trips back, longer term trip back, and I got a phone call from a client who said, "Let's go and talk about a deal." Big private equity client. Let's talk about a deal that we were talking about last year. And I said, "Yep, let's do that." And he said, "Let's go for a beer." And I was sort of kicking myself, because I was thinking, right, I'd already thought, well, 2023, let's try to turn it around a bit. Dry January is a good start, and let's just see what you can do to just try to make 23 a better year than 22. And actually, quite interestingly, post-COVID, Singapore changed dramatically in terms of the number of people who were there, friends leaving, and all that sort of stuff. So it was a bit lonely, and I'm quite a sociable person, and I don't mind talking about it. I think when I first started doing this, I'd never have told anyone that I was a bit lonely, but nowadays I'll tell anybody. I'll tell you, tell whoever. But so he said, "You go for a beer," and of course I, being the professional, said, "Oh yes, okay, fine." And then I kicked myself. Why did you do that? So I rang him back and said, "Let's not do that. Let's go for a walk instead." I'd never been to this place called Mauritius Reservoir. It's right in the middle of the jungle. So we see snakes, we see lizards, we see monkeys, we see wild boar, we see pangolin, which is beautiful, incredible. So I said, let's go for a walk instead. And so we went for a walk and we enjoyed it. But actually, I'd also said to him, "Listen, Mike, you had asked me for a beer, so I'm going to ask you to give me an amount of money equivalent to the amount that you thought we were going to spend on beer." And he said, "Oh, only you would do something like this, but that's actually quite good. And then I want you to give that to me, and I'm going to give it to our firm's charity of the year in Singapore." And we didn't have a charity of the year because we just come to the end of a 2-year cycle. And so I thought, tell you what, I've just seen this situation with dementia in our family. Why don't I get in touch with Dementia Singapore? I just thought, well, I like going for that walk, and I'd like to do it again. And I think I've got quite a good network. I could probably do something about it. And so they gave me a Just Giving link, so that they could sponsorship money. And I put it onto LinkedIn and onto Facebook. At that time, I'm not really still on in Instagram. I should be. I'm a dinosaur. But I put it onto LinkedIn and Facebook and said, right, I'm going to go and do 75 laps of Mauritius Reservoir in Singapore over the course of 2023. Which would equate to about 1,000 kilometers. That would allow me to travel back and forth to the UK, to America, whatever, traveling work-wise. And I put it on, and within 3 days, my next 6 weeks were booked out every day, twice a day. So I was doing at that time, I was just doing one person and one person, so me with one person. And so I get there at 4 o'clock in the morning. I start at
4 o'clock.
Pitch black, So the first one would be completely in black and dark. It's horrendous. Torches and all that sort of stuff. But so we'd start at 4:30. We'd finish the first lap at 7:15, 12.5 kilometers. I'd then go out again. I'd meet the next person at 7:30, and I'd do the next one till about 9:30, 9:40. Then I'd be in the office at 10, do my day's work. But by that stage, I'd already walked 25 kilometers or 40,000 steps or whatever it was. And so for 3 weeks, I did that and realized this is crazy. It's knackering me out. I was, it was but really good, and I was really enjoying it. So I started to put groups of people together who I thought might be interested. So the first group I did what I called International M&A Deal Day. So I had a lawyer from A&O Sherman, A&O at the time, me, I had a target, I had an investor, I had an underwriter, I had a PR guy, I had a broker, whatever, and we pretended to talk a bit about a deal. The reality was we were just mates talking and having a good time walking, but there were 10 of us. And then post that, I've done more and more of these things where many now, where I've put groups of people together. So the largest group that I think I mentioned earlier was 72.
Yes, yeah.
And then last week, we did a fundraising one in Singapore for Pro Bono Singapore, which is a bit like Whitechapel legal advice, right. so pro bono advice. And so I do a lot of work with them now as well. And so every day I do it wherever I am. So this morning I did it, and I took 2 out. Tomorrow I've got 10. Friday I've got 3. Yeah, and it's just grown and grown and grown, totally organically. But it's been a fantastic experience and completely changed my outlook on life in so many ways.
Absolutely.
And made me tired as well. But
yes, yeah. And if anybody wants to have a look, the website is walk-to-talk.com.
And it's in process of being rejigged because it's all, as I said, been organic. If you look at my mobile phone, you're on a WhatsApp group with me.
Yeah.
That WhatsApp group is called McRitchie Challenge, 29th of the 1st.
The dates.
Capital.
You've got hundreds of WhatsApp
I've got
groups.
970 of those.
Right.
And they're still open.
Yeah.
And people do still talk on them every now and again. Most people don't leave.
Yeah.
And it's been really lovely to see those friendships. And there's so many other stories I can tell you about, how many people I've met, who I've met, new people.
Yeah.
I've done 35 corporate social responsibility mornings so far. So I've taken KKR, Blackstone, Clifford Chance, Herbert Smith, whatever it might be. So it's been good from that perspective too, although that's not why we do it. And yeah, since then, it's been great. So I now sit on the board of Dementia Singapore, which I'm very proud of.
Nice.
And I chair their fundraising committee, which is pretty cool, actually, to be honest with you, because this came from basically a walk in the park. And it's just grown and grown and grown.
The origin story is quite nice. Just completely came from you and a mate just walking around.
Actually, you say that. Me and a client. Who is now a really good mate, because he has been so instrumental in the development of this. And actually, because of this, I've now got so many more mates than I would never have had. So of that 2,100 people, I know, because I've got these ridiculous spreadsheets, that 1,343 of them, or roughly, were new to me before I started this whole thing.
Yeah.
So I've effectively made 1,300 odd new friends.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't all like me, I'm sure. They all think I'm mad or I talk too much or whatever it might be, but it's actually given me such a great opportunity to meet new people. It's been brilliant.
Yeah.
All around the world.
Yeah, well, I say it's a great origin story, and if you need a spreadsheet to keep track of all your mates, you're doing something right.
So that's why the website's getting redone, right? Yeah. Because it needs to be able to collect all this stuff. And obviously we are data protected and compliant just about, but we need to move what's in here and on my phone properly. So last week every day I get 3 or 4 requests to do it.
Yeah.
And then last week I had requests from a person in Milan and in Mumbai to set up their own loop as well. So there's real legs. And someone said to me yesterday, where do you see it going? I think just growing bigger and bigger. It's meant to end a year to the day it started in 2024, but that carried on. Who knows? But it's been fantastic. It does give me so much joy, actually.
Well, I think that's the main thing. Obviously, as I said, great cause. It's raising money, which is great. But it sounds like it came out of a difficult time for you.
Yeah.
It was probably connecting people, walking with people.
Yeah.
So looking forward to the early start tomorrow morning.
It is an early start.
Yeah,
but you'll be done by 9:15. I have to be, because I've got to be on a board meeting at 9:30. So yeah.
So final question then. What are you looking forward to next? Personally, professionally, what have you got going on? What's exciting?
That's a good question. I mean, I have 2 beautiful children at the moment, and I'm looking forward to seeing them progress to university. And I am really hopeful that this walk to talk thing keeps taking off as it has. It's given me so many experiences. I won't say where I was this morning, but I had a really good opportunity before work today, which you'll probably see on LinkedIn. And I do get to do quite a lot of this good stuff. The meetings I have tomorrow are pretty cool too. But I actually have to do a day job as well.
Yeah.
And so continue to, make sure that the team is busy, work hard, do what we do, and let's see where it all ends up. I think London for me now and Singapore is where I'm based, and I'm enjoying it. So that's all you can really hope for, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you for having me, because I hope there's been something in here that people can take away from. But
Definitely.
if you'd like to, drop me a line. I'm always around to have a little chat as well.
Yeah, and I'll put all the links to everything in the notes as well, so people can find you, charity, all the information.
Most importantly, let me know and come for a walk.
Well, look, thanks very much for your time today.
Thanks,
Good
Hugo.
to speak with you.
Yeah, great. Good luck with the project.